come out. Wait for me, butterfly, wait for me. I'm only human, so let me be. Let me be.
Hello, my name's Marlon. I'm the creative director at FOTW. Everyone should come onto a stage with a soundtrack playing at some point in their life, so thought today I'd take full advantage of that. Today I'm going to be talking a bit about crafting the cut-through. And just to give a bit of background, FOTW originally started off as a direct response advertising agency, or DR, as it's most commonly referred to. These are those adverts that are designed to be hard-working and are very trade-focused. They usually are geared to communicate a great offer, a great price, or that there's a sale on. The key thing is that they always make you aware of an immediate deal, as well as give you a call to action, and that might be a phone number or a website to go and visit. Now, once upon a time, direct response advertising was kind of seen as the dirty cousin of all that cool, sexy, above-the-line brand work. But in today's world, where marketeers' budgets are spread across numerous channels now, and so much data is available to track effectiveness, more so than ever before are they wanting to see clear results and KPI targets met from the channels that they use. But what's the creative cost of that? I mean, a gorilla banging on drums to Phil Collins makes no bloody sense whatsoever to sell chocolate. But sometimes that's exactly what you need to cut through all that noise. But with this changing of the landscape, what we have seen is the divide between DR and above-the-line brand advertising become much more blurred, giving birth to the term brand response advertising. As we aim to now get the best of both worlds from our creative communications. Here's a very technical slide, maybe a little bit crude, to illustrate the point I'm trying to make. On the left, we have a classic DR style advert. And this one's for Smart Insurance, where we find Kate. And it is Kate because she introduces herself in the advert, so I know that's fact. Kate clearly explains to the caller what's so great about Smart Insurance and how much it is and where to get it. These adverts are very single-minded. They don't faff about. There's no weird and wonderful creative narratives. They just want you to act immediately. And for a marketeer who wants short-term results, it can be happy days. But they're not art. At the other end of the spectrum, we've got Glazer's iconic surfer for Guinness. Now, this is true art. It's culture-making TVC porn at its best. Voted to be the best advert ever made. All hinged around the proposition of better things come to those who wait, which is quite apt for this type of ad as it's designed for long-term brand building. Does it tell me anything about how much I'm going to enjoy a pint of Guinness? No. Does it tell me the price of a pint of Guinness? No. But does it make me respect and like the brand Guinness? Yes. And because of that, there's a good chance I might order one next time I'm in a pub. As you can see, we have a little siphon going into our beaker at the bottom, taking learnings from both to create what we now call brand response advertising. Over the years, FOTW has seen this shift and evolved from a pure DR advertising agency into a response-driven advertising agency. That means that our work needs to drive an immediate response to act on a current offer and generate sales in the short term, as well as emotionally engage with the viewer, building the brand and customer loyalty for the long term. Essentially, we're trying to combine the best of both worlds. So how do we do this?
The sweet spot.
Well, like with all things, it's about getting the recipe just right. Getting this perfect balance we call the sweet spot. It's well documented that videos that emotionally connect with audiences on a human level are far more likely to engage and drive a response than those that don't. If your content engages, it will result in more actions and increased reach. And when your content is contained within a compelling story that relates to its audience, it's much more likely to be watched to the end, remembered, and shared. If you emotionally engage with your audience, you will get a greater response to your call to action, essentially building your brand and selling your product. So why is emotional engagement so important when making a rational decision? Well, here's an example of your average human. In this case, it's my mate Matt. He's your everyday consumer. Now, he's not waiting for your advert. He's time poor, just like the rest of us. And he's bombarded each day with shed loads of impressions and adverts. So how do you make your message cut through all that noise? Well, let's take a peek at his brain and see what's going on inside. The brain has been described as being split into 3 key areas. For the sake of simplicity, we've done exactly that. Firstly, the red area, which is called the reptilian brain. This is our basic caveman instinctual brain. It's responsible for safety, sustenance, and sex and procreation. Next is the green area, which is called the neocortex. This is our smart brain, and it's responsible for intellectual tasks such as thought, word, and creation. And finally, we have the yellow area, known as the limbic brain. This is the part of our brain which is responsible for love, emotion, but decision-making. And it's the decision-making aspect which is key. You see, you can present the reason to the neocortex. Yes, it's a great deal. The price is good value. Your proposition is clear. But you must also convince the limbic brain if you want the person to act. If we take a look at our emotional language we use every day, we can see it's the limbic at work. For example, my heart's just not in it. Something doesn't feel right. I've got a good gut feeling about this. I love my iPhone. So for advertising to reach its full effectiveness, we need to get all of the brain on board. Essentially, too much hard sell, the viewer tunes out and doesn't get all the message takeout, weakening its effectiveness. But on the flip side, too much narrative and charm, the viewer does engage, but gets emotionally wrapped up in the story and doesn't get the message takeout, again, weakening its effectiveness. So to maximize your advertising's response, you need to light up the whole brain. Your communications need enough charm to emotionally engage, yet also clearly communicate the proposition and showcase the awesomeness of your product. Essentially, if you can light up the whole brain, then it's disco time. And that's essentially the sweet spot. So to summarize, clearly communicate your message so the consumer understands that your product and offer is fit for purpose, but communicating it in an emotive and engaging way. It's not about one or the other. There is no trade-off. It's the perfect recipe. To achieve this, there are best practices we use every day in our work at Fall Off the Wall, which today I'm going to share with you our top 5. Of course, at the end of the day, it's always about the big idea. That's what's going to resonate with people. But here's some tips that can help you turn up the dial on your effectiveness. So number 1, we call the trigger line. Now, we must always remember the audience has little patience. They're not waiting to watch your content. No longer can we expect the viewer to wait until the end of your advert to resolve for a conclusion. So start with the end. And by that, I mean land the brand quickly, straight off the bat. Back in the days when you could build an engaging story and only reveal the brand at the end, with today's technology and the power to skip at the simple click of a button, it's more important than ever to land your brand in the opening seconds before they can even find that remote down the back of the cushion. So ensure you pique their interest immediately. Now, the trigger line is a scripting technique we've developed to use at the front of our adverts. In one opening sentence, we need to do 4 things in a very efficient time frame. Firstly, we want to land the creative hook. We want to grab the viewer early to engage with them, to hopefully reel them in to watch the rest of the advert. We want to land the product, we want to land the brand, and we also want this language to connect with the visual you're seeing so that everything together works as one. I'll now show you some examples of trigger lines in actions. Now, the advert I'm about to show is one we did for Sky Sports.
Put yourself in the driving seat with the dedicated Sky Sports F1 channel for £18 a month. Watch every practice, qualifying and race live. Put yourself in the driving seat with the dedicated Sky Sports F1 channel.
Put yourself in the driving seat with the dedicated Sky Sports F1 channel. So if we break that down, Put yourself in the driving seat. So first of all, this is connecting with our visual theme, what we're seeing. We've got Max Verstappen there putting on his helmet as if he's just about to jump in the driving seat. So straight away, we're starting an engaging narrative, a story for the audience to start following. With the dedicated Sky Sports, straight away in the opening sentence, we land in the brand. And finally, F1 channel, the product. So all of this is working together in the opening couple of seconds. So even if I now was to skip or I was going to change the channel, we've done our work. Here's another example.
Turn on great value with superfast Sky Fibre Unlimited. It's totally unlimited, ideal for catch-up TV and box set marathons. And right now you can get it at our best price ever. Turn on great value with superfast Sky Fibre Unlimited.
Turn on great value with superfast Sky Fibre Unlimited. Again, turn on great value. We physically see Gru pushing this massive button and turning this advert on at the start of the advert. So again, straight off the bat, we're engaging with the audience. We're starting to tell a story, enough to hopefully keep them to ride with us. Turn on great value with superfast Sky. We land in the brand. And of course, Fibre Unlimited, the product. So a very quick way to open an advert that will hopefully communicate all those things very quickly. Point number 2, don't confuse excite. Now, this one should be common sense, and it's simply don't bombard the viewer with a list of facts and figures. Doesn't matter how great your product is. Don't try to cram too much information into one advert. The viewer will simply disengage. It's key to land the right amount of information in the right channel. A 30-second TV spot should not try to communicate everything you can possibly say about your product or offer. The information needs to be balanced within a creative story. There should be a flowing narrative which emotionally entertains the viewer whilst landing the messaging in a justified way. You are better to land 3 messages well rather than 6 badly. Essentially, the brain can only take in so much information at one time. If you can weave your messaging seamlessly into the narrative, it will definitely resonate more. Here's an example of when there's too much information crammed into an advert.
Sports fans, this autumn the rules of the game have changed. There are now 2 great ways to buy Sky Sports. For £18 a month, you now have the flexibility to choose your favourite channel, with the power to swap it once a month and cancel at any time. Or if you love all sports, get great value with unlimited access to all 8 Sky Sports channels for just £22 a month on a new 18-month contract. You choose. Simply search Buy Sky Sports.
Now, that was an example of a Sky Sports advert we created, which initially fell victim to a bit too much messaging. It was a complicated offer to unpack, and the end result was just way too busy and confusing. There was so much messaging that the actual takeout was reduced, but most importantly, it detracted from allowing the viewer to emotionally engage with the sport. It didn't pull out enough of the sporting events that you would get to watch if you took out Sky Sports by subscribing, which is essentially the true value of the product. So we retuned this advert, we stripped it back and simplified the messaging, pulling out the sport and ramping up the fear of missing out to generate more emotional engagement when you were watching it. This was the end result.
Don't miss the biggest events of the summer, live only on Sky Sports. Watch England going for glory in the men's and women's Ashes. Catch all 4 days of the Open, plus every F1 race. Pick your favourite sports channels from just £18 a month. And you can cancel any time. But with so much action, you won't want to miss a single moment. Choose your Sky Sports channels and get exclusive live action from £18 a month. Search Buy Sky Sports.
So as you can see, the creative approach, the idea hasn't really changed, but the dial has been adjusted to better reflect the sweet spot and to light up all parts of the brain. We've pulled out the sport more to make sure that the upcoming sporting events are very clearly communicated, so that person sat on the sofa might actually think, oh, I wouldn't mind watching that event, and they might actually subscribe and take out Sky Sports. Essentially, as a rule of thumb, keep it simple. Land what's important well, otherwise information will simply slip through the net. Put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. Less is more, simplicity is key. Number 3, FaceTime. Now, as humans, we naturally engage with facial expressions of other humans. When great actors portray emotions, we feel their joy, their euphoria, their pain, or in Jack Nicholson's case in The Shining, demonic possession, whatever. So when we see these emotions on TV, we engage so much more when they are full screen, rather than housed within a graphical device. The intricate details of a face, the way it creases and shifts based on emotion, is a language we all instinctively speak and understand. So much of communication is visual. So if you have great content, especially content that features people, make sure it's presented full screen. Here's some examples to help support this.
This Christmas, upgrade to Sky Cinema. Half price for 6 months. Enjoy more of the latest must-see movies.
Hear the music.
With a new premiere every day.
I could get used to this.
Choose from over 1,000 movies on demand, including some Christmas crackers. Yes! With HD at no extra cost. That's a new premiere every day and over 1,000 movies on demand. And HD at no extra cost. Upgrade to Sky Cinema. Half price for 6 months. Just search Sky Cinema. Sky. Believe in better.
Now, that was a Sky Cinema Christmas campaign. The creative vehicle was, of course, an advent calendar. Conceptually, it was spot on, counting down the days till Christmas, with a new premiere released every day, with each door opening on the calendar. Although it was a nice spot and the creative theme was strong for Christmas, because the movies were presented within the panels of the calendar, rather than shown full screen, the viewer doesn't actually engage so much as they could have with the actual films that we're trying to promote. So the knock-on effect is your fear of missing out, not watching those films is reduced. So here's another example of a similar advert we created, but this time we present the movies full screen. You'll see the difference in how you feel when you watch the spot because you're actually engaging more with the content.
Get ready for all the unmissable action.
Hold on to something!
Ready or not, here it comes.
Stay with Sky Cinema, half price for 6 months.
I want in.
Unleash the biggest blockbuster releases. With a new premiere every day.
What? Oh, impressive.
And over 1,000 movies on demand. All in stunning HD at no extra cost. Yeah! Stay with Sky Cinema for your exclusive offer. Half price for 6 months.
That's a good choice.
Simply press interactive on your Sky remote and visit my account.
Now, this approach is less of a conceptual creative approach as the advent calendar, but it definitely works harder to give you a fear of missing out and clearly lands the messaging. This is a more potent approach for driving sales. So to summarise, the engagement is reduced when the video is housed within a graphic device. It is also rarely recalled. So even if we are presenting content that is on a phone, we'll usually now make that phone go full screen so that we'll actually have a moment within the spot where we're watching the content full screen. So yeah, the engagement is reduced when it's housed within a graphic device. It is also rarely recalled. So go full screen with big name faces or scenes that are very disruptive. Unfamiliar content is hard to recall, even if it's given longer screen time. Number 4, the power of sound. Now in TV adverts, let's always remember the music, the sound effects, the spoken word is 50% of the immersive experience. It's just as important as the visuals. It sets the tone and the emotion. Now, for example, here's an image of a cat. He's really cute, right? He looks a little sad, possibly, maybe a little bit depressed, I don't know. But we have an immediate reaction when we see his little face and expression. But look what happens when we add a bit of music.
When I was young, I never needed anyone, and making love was just for fun. Those days are gone.
I think you get the point. So now, although this is exactly the same image, by adding that additional layer of sad music, it really pulls on our heartstrings even harder. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a picture of a cat. He's fine. He lives on a farm or something. I don't know. Never met him. But it shows the power of the music. The point here is that you can control how the viewer feels, what messages they hear at the right time. You can control their emotional engagement, immersion, and their message takeout. Here's a recent piece we created which uses no VO, yet purely through the use of music and sound design alone, we build anticipation and excitement, aimed to get petrol heads revved up about F1. Number 5, see what you say. If you have messaging visually on screen, make sure the VO is using the same language as the script. If they don't connect, you are confusing the brain. It's the equivalent of rubbing your stomach and patting yourself on the head. So many you'll see on adverts where there'll be text on the actual advert, but what the voiceover is saying is something different to the text that's on the screen, and it just confuses. The voiceover artist is also just as important. Their voice and the language used in the script sets the tone of your brand. Are you a fun and irrelevant, humorous brand that doesn't take itself too seriously? Or are you a strong, serious brand that commands expertise and gravitas? Here's an example of an advert we did for the brand Odds Checker.
Something big is going on at the Odds Checker testing lab. Meet Craig. He's offered to test our spanking new Odds Checker app. Ready, Craig? Whoa! Craig's being bombarded by the best odds and loads of great offers from over a dozen bookmakers. Meaning with Odds Checker, you could win up to 44% more on your Premier League accumulators. Craig, you legend. Download the Odds Checker app today for exclusive offers from BetVictor. Odds Checker, it's big betting power.
So in this case, we used a tongue-in-cheek VO to echo the brand's playful image. The script works hard to set out an engaging, fun story so that we emotionally engage with the viewer, but it clearly lands the new product, what it does, and its benefits. Now, the script is deliberately crafted to tie in with key moments with the visuals on screen to make sure the message takeout is really strong. For example, at the moment the VO says best odds, you see best odds. Again, when we hear the script land 44% more, we make sure the viewer reads 44% more. We deliberately use a strong depth of field at this moment to give the viewer no choice but to read and hear the message at that precise moment in the advert. In most cases, we even turn this up a further notch by adding a sheen of light that will sweep across the text perfectly at the moment the VO is reading it. All of this, it's really not rocket science, but it is effective in making your message cut through. So that was our top 5 tips, which leads me onto response evolution. The landscape and rules are always changing. In recent months alone, the Advertising Standards Authority have enforced new guidance for on-screen text. Text now needs to stay on screen for longer to make sure that it's clearly read and understood by the viewer. This has had a big impact on response-driven advertising, as it means the creative now has to land its messaging with a drastically decreased amount of text on screen. So we now need to be super efficient with, firstly, what key messages are we going to present in text, but also find other ways to make sure that we really drive that messaging home without the type having to do so much of the heavy lifting. Here's an example of a recent spot we created, abiding by these new rules.
Get the best TV all in one place with Sky Q. Join Sky TV and get 90 channels including Sky Atlantic. Plus, Ultimate On Demand. So you can enjoy Netflix with massive originals like Stranger Things, together with awesome Sky box sets like Game of Thrones. Get Sky TV, Netflix and Sky box sets, all for just €40 a month for 12 months. Search Sky TV.
So we now use the visuals and voiceover to work much harder together. What we're hearing and seeing should align. So if the voiceover is telling us about we're going to get a free Sky Q box, then visually at that moment in the advert, in a close-up, we will hero the Sky Q box. If you wish to communicate, for example, super fast, then we would use content that supports this, or we'll move the camera in a super fast way to echo this sentiment. The new SA rule compliance shouldn't be seen as a negative, though, but rather it presents a new challenge to still create strong performing work, putting the product and offer more embedded in the creative. But at this same time, we should also consider other channels are also now able to show such rich media. So we should always think about how our rich TV assets can be repurposed for those other channels. Here's an example of how the advert you just saw was repurposed to become an Instagram advert. Welcome to the Pocket TVC. The trick here is to create a new bespoke advert adhering to bespoke best practices for digital and social channels, which complements your TVC campaign. It's not simply a case of resizing your advert down and slapping it on a phone. They need to be shorter because people are much quicker to swipe. They need to work with the sound off, hence that's why we use subtitles in these adverts, because you can't guarantee someone walking with their phone in their hand will be listening to the sound. And they definitely need to be disruptive so that we can beat that dreaded swipe. But remember, it's also not just TV. So play with the channel, because you can do things that you can't do on TV. So like as you saw in this, we have the Stranger Things vines grow over the LinkedIn bit at the bottom. There's all little tricks and things and fun things you can do to make these much more also immersive, engaging and shareable. But we shouldn't see these smaller screens as competition, but rather as a place where we can reuse our rich TV assets. A recent study from Facebook looking into whether digital or TV advertising was more effective, with the suspicion being that digital would actually win, actually found that a Facebook campaign run in conjunction with a TV advertising drove an incredible 29% incremental lift in brand recall. So it's not either or, but again, it's all about together. Now, I think that's just about me done, but I'd like to leave you today with some top tips for writing a strong speech from Winston Churchill. But I think these equally apply to writing strong creative that cuts through. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers.